Hello, my name is Blossoms and welcome to another Genshin Impact video, and today we're going to be talking about Yanfei, giving you guys my build on her as well as a guide to alternative sets and or weapons that might suit you guys, and just giving you guys my general thoughts about her overall. So far I've been really enjoying her character and she's very fun to play and has a slight nuance that we haven't really seen out of other Catalyst characters yet, and we'll go over that as we go along. But before we hop into the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as it does help me out a ton and I deeply appreciate it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and show off the Yanfei build guide. So first of all, let's talk about exactly how Yanfei works. First, you look at her normal attacks here, and this is where she really shines. This is basically what her whole character revolves around, is her normal and charge attacks. She's basically Pyro Ningguang in the sense that you do your normal attacks, and each normal attack is going to give you a Scarlet Seal, and that Scarlet Seal will decrease Yanfei's stamina consumption and will disappear when she leaves the field. And then when you use a charge attack, it will consume those Scarlet Seals and will increase the damage of that charged attack according to those Scarlet Seals. And of course, since she's a Catalyst user, she does pyro damage with all of that. And as you can see here, the charge attack does scale up based on how many Scarlet Seals you have, starting at 0 Scarlet Seals, then 1, then 2, then 3, and then eventually if you get her C6, you'll have a 4th Scarlet Seal charge attack there, as her C6 does give her an additional Scarlet Seal. Her E skill is nothing too crazy, but it does definitely help you use her. Her E skill here is basically just a solid AoE pyro damage, but it's also going to grant you the maximum amount of Scarlet Seals. So essentially what you're going to be able to do is swap her to the field, use E, do a maximum damage charge attack immediately, and then just, continue about your business how you see fit. Only thing about this is that it doesn't scale super hard. It only does 237% skill damage, which is nothing too crazy. And you're going to notice the same thing with her Elemental Burst. A lot of her damage is going to be coming from those charged attacks. And then for her Elemental Burst, it's essentially very similar to the E, where it does a nice pyro AoE. This one is a little bit closer to you, though. You can't cast it as far. One thing about Yanfei here is the fact that her E and normal attacks and charge attacks all hit from very far away. She's kind of a sniper. It's really crazy. But then her Elemental Burst doesn't really hit as far away. So this is kind of something you want to use a little bit more close. And what this is going to do is going to apply Brilliance to her, which is going to give you a Scarlet Seal every 1 second. And then you're just going to be able to use your charge attacks more often. And it's also going to increase the damage dealt by your charged attacks during the duration as well, which is very important to know. So yeah, this doesn't scale too crazily either. It's kind of the same as the skill, really. They're not too far off from each other, but it will be giving you that charge attack damage bonus and giving you some free Scarlet Seals. But it does have an 80 energy cost, and although its duration is good, an 80 energy cost on her can be a little bit hard to achieve, so getting her charged up to that point can be difficult sometimes. Moving on to her 4th talent here, we have her passive Proviso. When Yanfei consumes Scarlet Seals by using a charge attack, each Scarlet Seal will increase her pyro damage bonus by 5%, and that lasts for 6 seconds. When a charge attack is used again during the effect's duration, it will dispel the previous effect. So just keep that in mind. Basically, when she consumes her seals, she gets a pyro damage bonus, which is pretty darn nice. Then for her 5th talent here, we have Blazing Eye. When Yanfei's charge attack deals a crit hit to opponents, she will deal an additional instance of AoE pyro damage equal to 80% of her attack. This damage counts as charged attack damage. This is very cool because of the fact that it's just basically free pyro AoE, but I love the fact that it counts as charge attack damage, because then this passive is going to be proccing off of any sort of charge attack boosters you might have. And then it's also going to be based off of her attack, which is pretty cool. It's literally just free AoE pyro, and honestly, what's to complain about that? And then for her final passive here, it's basically Chi-Chi's passive. It displays the location and nearby resources unique to Leeway on the minimap. Really useful if you're looking for those local specialties, especially now with the housing system where we are needing a little bit more of those nook and cranny type of resources than we did previously. Like, we need silk flowers a lot for some of the actual fabric in the housing system and whatnot, so this is something you definitely don't want to skip out on either. Now when we get into Constellations on Yanfei, all of her constellations are pretty good, but I would say there's only one that is really amazing compared to all of them, and that's going to be the C1. Basically, all it does is it makes your Scarlet Seals decrease the stamina cost of her charge attack by an additional 10%. However, the biggest part here is that it increases resistance against interruption during its release, which is really nice. I played her at C0 for a while. I actually just got her C1 not too long ago, and it was really hard to get off your charge attack sometimes in certain scenarios where you just get nicked by a little bit of damage and it would interrupt you. So having this stopping you from being interrupted is a really nice quality of life change, and I highly recommend at least this constellation. Moving on to other constellations though, her C2 isn't too bad. It increases her charge attack crit rate by 20%, gets enemies below 50% HP. Definitely nice if you're struggling on some of that crit rate, but nothing too amazing. The fourth one here though is pretty nice, as when Done Deal is used, it creates a shield that absorbs up to 45% of Yanfei's max HP for 15 seconds. Of course, absorbs Pyro a little bit more effectively, but this is pretty cool because it just kind of makes her like a shield character. It really enables the ability to use a 4-piece bull on her too, if you really wanted that, but I do like that you get a nice shield from her. I'm actually going to be shooting for this one myself, as it seems like a nice little quality of life buff. And then finally, her C6, it increases the maximum number of her Scarlet Seals by 1. I already mentioned this one previously. Pretty nice, definitely going to make it to where your charge attacks basically cost nothing. Actually, I do believe at this point they do cost nothing. If you're at your maximum number of Scarlet Seals, your charge attacks shouldn't cost anything at this point, just because that's how the math ends up working out with the reduction on top of the fact that you get the additional reduction at C1. So at this point, your charge attacks will just be free, and that's pretty nice. It's also going to help you conserve that stamina for dodging, which is really nice as well. One more thing before we move on, the order in which you're going to want to level these is definitely going to be normal attack first, probably elemental burst second, and then cynetic or her E skill third there. You could maybe swap E and the elemental burst a little bit, but the normal attack is without a doubt going to be the most important, as all of her stuff revolves around her charge attack, and the normal attack stuff does scale her charge attack. Alright, I've talked long enough about everything else and how she works, but now that we know exactly how she works, we can talk about these set bonuses, what kind of set you're going to want to use on Yanfei. And yeah, you see me here with the Wanderer's Troop, but I'm here to tell you that isn't actually the best set for her. This is the second best set for her, actually. But the best set for her is actually going to be the 4-piece Crimson Witch. A lot of people have been working out the math, and this one ever so slightly edges out on top of the Wanderer's Troop set here. So this one is a little bit better, and it's also going to be significantly easier to farm for a good version of this set than it is the Wanderer's Troop set. So you might be asking, why am I using Wanderer's Troop set? Well, if you haven't looked at these substats yet, you can peep them now. My substats on my Wanderer's Troop set are no joke. I got some insane crit right here, some really good crit damage, and my flower is no exception either. All attack percent, crit rate, crit damage, elemental mastery, very good for me. And the thing is, the difference between the Wanderer's Troop and the Crimson Witch set really isn't that different. According to some of the math guys, it's only like a few percentage points difference. So if I would 100% just go with whatever substats you have that are better. If you already have a pretty decent Wanderer's Troop set, then just go with that instead of banging your head against the wall for maybe a Crimson Witch of Flame set, because they're just going to equal out, at least if you're putting her on a kind of reaction team, which you probably should be doing, because she's not going to mollywop the enemy by herself. She is certainly going to need some supports that are going to facilitate some good reactions with her. Now, in terms of how you're going to want to play her, if you are playing her in a heavy elemental reaction team, then you're going to maybe want to consider actually using an EM Sands on her, as that might be pretty good. I don't have a good one though, so I've just gone with this attack percent Sands, and I don't have a good attack percent Sands. So honestly, I could kind of use whatever in this slot. But yeah, attack percent or EM are going to do best here. I would only suggest EM if you plan to use her in those heavy elemental reaction team compositions, as she does really well if you have plenty of supports backing her up, causing constant melt or vaporize or even overload. One thing about Yanfei is she might be one of the only pyro users that I think could really utilize overload, because the biggest issue with overload that we've had so far is the fact that overload just throws the enemy across the map, and then we have to run to get them, and it just wastes our time, consumes our stamina, and is usually not worth it. But the fact that her normal and charge attacks can hit from so far away that, well, Overload's actually a really good option for her because it, one, keeps her safe, and two, she can still deal damage without having to run around to actually hit them. So it's pretty nice. It can be a little finicky sometimes, you know, with the auto-targeting in the game, but I do recommend that. I've been having some fun with some Overload teams myself. And then, of course, for the Goblet, you're going to be doing a Hydro damage bonus 100%. Really, I couldn't suggest anything else here. You're pretty much going to need that. And then for the helmet, of course, crit rate or crit damage is going to be the best in slot for you. In terms of some set alternatives, I did mention the two best sets of Wanderer's Troop and Crimson Witch of Flames, how they're pretty much equal, but there is one slightly below both of those, and especially if you have C4, you might want to consider running something like the 4-piece Retracing Bolide, as that might benefit you a lot, keeping you safe inside of her shield if you have that C4, and then also giving you additional normal and charge attack damage by 40% while you're in your shield is pretty nice, and it's definitely not bad, but as I said, I could only really recommend this if you have that Constellation 4. Now, in terms of weapons for Yanfei, you've got quite a few options. The Witch Sith, I think, is probably going to be the best 4-star for her. You get that nice crit damage there, and then you also get these bonuses, and all of these bonuses are going to be good on Yanfei. None of them are really bad for her, especially something like the Elemental Mastery one if you are doing that heavy reaction combination team. However, you might not want to use Witch Sith if your ratios are bad for your crit rate and crit damage. That is really going to depend on your substats, so think about that. But other options do include something like the Solar Pearl. I've been swapping a little bit to the Solar Pearl just because my crit rate was a little off. I have kind of fixed it a little bit now, so it isn't as bad, but my crit rate was a little off, so I was using this at first, and it's not too bad either. It gives her Elemental Burst a little bit more damage on some normal attack hits, and then her Elemental Burst increases her normal attack damage by 20%. Not too bad, but do keep in mind this does not affect her charge attack damage, so it doesn't really help her out all in that department. It's pretty much just going to be good for that crit rate substat, and you know, this is going to come in a little bit every now and then. Now, in terms of another 4-star that you could use, there's really only one other option, probably being the Map of Mare, increasing that Elemental Mastery for her, allowing you to circumvent maybe the need for an EM piece if you're in that heavy reaction team. I do really recommend Elemental Mastery on her. That is going to help out a ton for your reactions. And then, of course, you're going to gain an additional 8% of elemental damage bonus, a max 2 stacks, you know, with Map of Mare here. If you are actually doing those elemental reactions, which you should be. So this is also going to be a great option for her. And then, of course, if you have any 5-stars, those are going to be a fantastic option for Yanfei as well. One more thing, I forgot to talk about the substats. Of course, you're going to be looking for crit rate and crit damage, but not only that, you're going to want attack percent and elemental mastery. I would actually put elemental mastery over the usual energy recharge we might put in that priority slot for her, just because you're going to want to be doing so many reactions with her. You definitely do want some energy recharge on her though, especially since her elemental burst cost is so high, but elemental mastery is really going to help her out a ton. Just you're going to have to play with that a little bit. I would recommend having a couple pieces with an exact roll of something like this, and then maybe a couple pieces that have, you know, basically the same roll but with energy recharge instead of elemental mastery, and just hoping the best on that. I think those are going to be the most optimal subsets for you. Alright, so we figured out exactly what weapons we're wanting to use on Yanfei, as well as some of the artifacts we're going to use, but what characters does she pair well with the best? Basically, Xingqiu is going to be amazing for her. Facilitating really good vaporize procs with Xingqiu is going to be huge for Yanfei. She applies pyro really fast, and Xingqiu is really going to be able to just apply those vaporize procs. It is going to be a really good combination. But maybe you don't have Xingqiu, maybe you're looking for some other characters. Rosaria is actually going to be an amazing option just because her cryo application with her elemental burst is so consistent, and you can intermittently swap to her to apply some more cryo with her E skill, which is really nice, as well as somebody like Ganyu with her Q skill that can constantly apply some cryo isn't bad either. Those are some of the best cryo options. Of course, you pair her with Diona, especially if you are going for that retracing bolide build, then I would recommend something like this, but Diona's cryo application is not nearly as good as somebody like Ganyu's or Rosaria's. But as I did mention, Yanfei is really good in an overload team composition, and Fischl and Beto are going to be amazing pairings for her. I really like Beto's in particular since Yanfei is so heavy on the normal charge attack combo pattern, because you get Beto's Q going, then you're going to be able to just sit back with Yanfei and snipe people with her normal attacks, and that's also going to be applying the Electro and getting overload proc. It's really fun, connects to a bunch of enemies, and it's a really good combo, I gotta say it. If you have Yanfei and Beto, then at least try that combo out a little bit, because it's funny to just see everything fall away to the back, but you're still able to hit them with Yanfei. Pretty fun combo, I have to say myself. And then, as I said, Fischl is also going to be a really good option. But other than that, there isn't too many amazing pairings with Yanfei other than those. Sucrose is a really good one since Yanfei applies so much Pyro. Sucrose is really going to be able to spread that and maximize her DPS if you have something like the 4-piece Viridis and Venerer set on her. Those are going to help out a ton. Well, hopefully that helped you guys build your Yanfei in exactly the way you wanted to. I tried to include just about everything I could to make sure that you had all the options that you could use to your disposal for your Yanfei. I really love her character design. I'm definitely going to be using her for a while, and one of my favorite things is the fact that she does pair so well with Electro units. I've really liked the concept of Overload, but how annoying it has been in the past was really annoying, but with Yanfei, it has kind of circumvented that. So if you're like me and really do like to try out those different team combos and have been looking to maybe try out an Overload team that is actually, not a pain, then Yanfei is going to be the character for you. But anyway, that's going to be it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. My name is Blossoms, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.